Hi everyone, welcome to Leisrealtalk. Wow, I start right on time today. All right, okay. How's everyone? Good? Everyone had a great start of the week? Okay, excellent. Well, if you've been following my channel, you've heard me say it before. A massive power outage is not a matter of if, but when. And when it hits, it won't just be an inconvenience. It will throw us back to the pre-internet age. And for some, without their smart devices, it will feel like the Stone Age. And we'd better be prepared because the power grid has become a silent battlefield in today's geopolitical struggle. This battle started more than a decade ago, and we were just warned this past April when Spain and Portugal suddenly went dark. Now, why Portugal? And I'm telling you now, that blackout was no accident. It happened around 12:30 p.m. on April 28th. Spain and Portugal were hit by an unprecedented nationwide blackout. Major cities, Madrid, Barcelona, and Seville in Spain, along with Lisbon and Porto in Portugal, went dark. Public transportation ground to a halt, and the airports in Madrid and Lisbon, hundreds of flights were delayed or canceled. Spain's national railway company suspended all train services, leaving passengers stranded, some in remote areas. They were forced to disembark and wait for rescue. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez said the power system suddenly lost 15 gigawatts of generating capacity. It disappeared within just 5 seconds, and that's about 60% of the country's electricity demand. Portugal's prime minister has suggested the failure originated in Spain, but his counterpart in Spain stated that experts have not yet identified what triggered the failure. All possibilities are under analysis, and no hypothesis has been ruled out. What's interesting is 2 months have passed. Although authorities have ruled out a cyber attack on the grid, the exact cause of the massive blackout remains unknown. And with today's technology, I find this hard to believe. The lack of conclusion is more problematic than the outage itself, in my opinion. And this blackout was widely covered by international media, including Chinese outlets, some of which mocked the panic and chaos that followed. But China shouldn't be laughing because it is part of the problem. In fact, China has a major presence in Portugal's energy sector, and this is precisely the reason I'm concerned. In fact, China has strategically controlled some of Portugal's most important sectors, and I wonder if that's the real reason why we're not getting an explanation of the outage. So today, let me explain how Beijing extended its reach deep into Europe's energy infrastructure, starting with Portugal, and then we'll discuss the United States. All right, so back in December 2011, almost 14 years ago, China's state-owned energy giant, it's called the Three Gorges Corporation, defeated Germany's E.ON. I think it's pronounced E.ON. Here we go. That's their logo. The E.ON was one of Germany's largest energy companies. So Three Gorges defeated not just Germany's E.ON, but also two Brazilian firms to win the bid for a stake in a company called EDP, which stands for Energies de Portugal, which is Portugal's main electric utility. Do I have a logo? Yeah, that's the logo. It's called EDP. Now, you have to understand that Germany's E.ON was backed by then Chancellor Angela Merkel, and assumed its bid would be a sure win because, after all, the acquisition was within EU territory, and many people believed the Chinese and the Brazilian bids were just formalities. But Germany or Germans underestimated China's ambition and their political resolve and its willingness to overpay. So Three Gorges paid 2.69 billion euros to acquire a 21.35, because a little over 21% stake in EDP, and thus becoming its largest single shareholder. EDP had once been a state-owned monopoly. Even after privatization, it remained Portugal's largest industrial enterprise and one of Europe's major energy companies, with operations across Portugal, Spain, Brazil, the US, and 13 other countries and regions. Now, the backdrop to this deal was Portugal's sovereign debt crisis. As part of its bailout package from the EU and IMF, the country was required to privatize state-owned assets, and this included EDP. Let's talk about the offer from the Chinese company Three Gorges. It offered 3.45 euros per share, a 53% premium over EDP's last closing price of 2.25 euro. And that wasn't all. Three Gorges agreed to invest up to 2 billion euros in domestic wind energy projects, and that Chinese state-owned banks would extend $4 billion in credit lines to EDP. So these off-contract, state-backed financial sweeteners made Portugal's choice easy, and Germany's E.ON simply couldn't compete. So this aggressive, all-of-government approach from China's leadership, its state-owned enterprises, its diplomats, and banks were unbeatable. Even powerful foreign corporations were outmatched. And then after securing its position as EDP's top shareholder, China celebrated the victory. State media and party officials ranked this deal second only to the 2009 Sinclair Dam contract in Ecuador, which was seen as China's strategic beachhead into Latin America, America's backyard. Similarly, defeating Germany's E.ON to gain control of EDP in Portugal was seen as China's first major entry point into the energy sectors of the developed Western world. And one CCP-affiliated media outlet put it this way. It said, "It's like the Monkey King sneaking into the demon's belly." Now, I don't know if you're familiar with the novel Journey to the West, but in one of its 99 stories, there was a story about Monkey King sneaking into the demon's belly and causing, tremendous pain to the demon. So basically, this quote implies that the acquisition, can wreak havoc to the enemies, and you wonder who the enemy is in this case, right? So this marked the first time a Chinese company became the top shareholder in a European public utility. It's a move with far-reaching implications for China's influence in global energy markets. So from then on, by using EDP as a platform, China had secured not just an asset, but a gateway that would allow it to gradually expand its influence throughout Europe and across the world. So following the acquisition of EDP, China Three Gorges Corporation, maybe you want to see, here's the logo, took additional steps to expand its energy footprint across Europe. So it acquired a 49% stake in a portfolio of wind farms in Portugal, Italy, and Poland. It purchased the Meerwind offshore wind project in Germany's North Sea. And then in September 2023, it partnered with EDP to win the Moray West offshore wind project in the UK. It was China's first major entry into the world's largest offshore wind market, with installed capacity of nearly 1 million kilowatts. It's 950,000 kilowatts. This also marked the first time a Chinese SOE had invested in an offshore wind project nearing 1 million kilowatts. And then leveraging its position as EDP's largest shareholder, the Three Gorges Company expanded into Southeast Asia, Africa, Latin America, and especially into Brazil and Peru's energy markets. And on its official website, the company boasts, this is China's Three Gorges Company, it said, "We are going global. Portugal's largest electricity company, Germany's largest offshore wind operator, Peru's #1 power distributor, Brazil's second largest private power generator and largest private hydroelectric company, all have the presence of the Three Gorges behind them." So it sounds like, I mean, the website was really very boastful when it comes to mentioning mentioning its international footprint, but it all started with winning the bid in Portugal in 2011. Now, 2011, China was under the rule of then CCP leader Hu Jintao. After Xi Jinping came to power, the company grew even more ambitious. It expanded its stake further. In October 2017, it acquired an additional 2% of a stake and bringing its total holding to 23.27%, which is about 850 million shares of EDP. And soon after that, in 2018, the company made an audacious move. It proposed a full takeover of EDP with a bid worth 9.1 billion euros, which is about 11 billion US dollars. It's one of the largest overseas acquisitions ever attempted by a Chinese SOE. What gave Three Gorges an edge wasn't just its existing 23% stake. It also had the support of another Chinese SOE, China National New Energy International Investment, which owned another 5% of EDP. So together, the two Chinese companies held about 28% of the company. Now, the full acquisition ultimately failed due to opposition from the United States. The deal would have handed a Chinese state entity not only deeper access to Portugal's electricity infrastructure, but also EDP's operations in Spain, France, Italy, the UK, and key assets in Latin America and the United States. And EDP owns rapidly expanding wind and solar projects in Mexico, Brazil, and the United States. Okay. So the United States saw the acquisition as a strategic threat. In an interview with Portugal's Economic Weekly, U.S. ambassador to Spain, his name is George Glass, warned that EDP controls 80% of Portugal's electricity resources. And from Washington's perspective, a nation's critical energy infrastructure should not be controlled by foreign entities, but instead be operated by domestic or state-regulated private firms. It was a blunt message to Portugal, right? then it was, I mean, Portugal is the most open EU country to Chinese investments. I mean, it was basically a warning to Portugal, um, saying that Europe lacked strategic clarity about Chinese influence. Although the acquisition failed, the Chinese company didn't back off. It pivoted to long-term influence building through political and diplomatic ties. And in 2021, the chairman, then chairman of the company, visited Lisbon, and met with the Portuguese president. I think his name is Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa, President de Sousa in Lisbon. Here I have a picture of him. There he is. And that was in 2021. And in 2023, a new chairman, his name is Lei Mingshan, went to Portugal again and met with President de Sousa. That's him. And then this year in April, another new chairman came to be. This is Liu Weiping. He visited Lisbon again and signed a memorandum of understanding with EDP to launch a youth talent exchange, which to many people looks more like a Chinese influence program or influence operation than a simple internship initiative. So Portugal has been wooed by the Chinese and become the weakest link in the European Union when it comes to Chinese strategic penetration. And Three Gorges isn't the only Chinese giant with a major stake in Portugal's energy sector. China Holdings, there's the State Grid Corporation of China owns 25% of REN. No, let me see. This company, I think its full name is I don't know how you say this. Redis, and it's REN. I'm not even trying to pronounce this. But it's Portugal's national electricity and gas transmission operator. And so China's State Grid Corporation owns 25% of that company. And also, Fosun International, a Chinese pharmaceutical conglomerate, owns about 85% of a company called Fidelidade. I don't know how to say this. Fidelidade, which is Portugal's largest insurance company. And then through this Fidelidade, I have to laugh because I don't even know how to pronounce this word. Okay, so through the largest Portuguese insurance company, Fosun also owns 4% of REN, the Portugal's national electricity and gas transmission company. Okay, and then there's one of Portugal's leading private healthcare providers, which owns 14 hospitals and 29 facilities. It's called Leisrealtalk. I don't know how to say this. Okay. All right. You guys can pronounce it. Is now fully owned by Fosun, and the acquisition was completed in 2014. And in the banking sector, Fosun owns 20% of Millennium BCP Bank. Here we go, which is the second largest bank in Portugal and the largest privately owned bank in the country, because Portugal's largest bank is state-owned. So this essentially is the largest bank the Chinese can buy or can invest in. So the Chinese owns 20% of that. And then the country's largest construction and infrastructure company, what is it called? Mota Angel, I can pronounce this one, This company is 30% owned by China Communications Construction Company, CCCC. And this purchase took place in 2020. So now you see, with China now holding substantial stakes in Portugal's energy, insurance, banking, healthcare, and infrastructure sectors, Portugal has effectively become a vassal state of China, or a quasi-vassal state. But that's why people say it's the weakest link in Europe, right? China's penetration runs deep in Portugal. And when one country holds this much control over another's critical infrastructure or sector, silence can be just as strategic as action. So it's no surprise that the country experienced a major power outage, and even less surprising that it still hasn't provided a clear explanation for the April 2025 blackout. And Spain is not immune. The two countries share an interconnected power grid, meaning vulnerabilities in Portugal's system can ripple across the border. What happens in Portugal doesn't stay in Portugal. Spain feels it too. So in a tightly coupled energy network, one compromised link can jeopardize the stability of the entire chain. And if you really look at it, it's not a technical failure, it's a strategic risk, right? So that's why when I saw the power outage, the blackout in Portugal and Spain, it's daunting, because you understand how much influence the Chinese have. You wonder, why Portugal? Why Spain? Now I think the dots are being connected. Okay, now let's talk about the United States. In the 2010s, around the same time the Three Gorges acquired a stake in Portugal's energy sector, China's state-owned grid company, it's called State Grid Corporation, sought entry into U.S. energy markets through investment or partnership. The Chinese aim to invest in U.S. energy infrastructure, particularly targeting electric and gas transmission assets. They reportedly considered acquiring minority stakes. Some sources suggested interest in, let's say, 14-15% stakes in distribution systems. And these investments would have granted the Chinese influence over critical energy networks. Fortunately, these attempts, or these investment attempts, were blocked or discouraged due to national security fears, and the intervention of an organization called the Committee on Foreign Investments in the U.S., CFIUS. However, America's energy sector is still subject to CCP's threat. Last January, then FBI Director Christopher Wray delivered a stark warning to Congress. Hackers backed by the Chinese government were increasingly targeting critical U.S. infrastructure, including water treatment plants, power grids, and transportation systems. In a more recent development, it's in mid-May this year, malicious communication devices were discovered embedded in Chinese-made solar equipment. And these ghost communication devices could bypass existing firewalls and enable additional remote access channels, potentially allowing bad actors to manipulate, shut down, or sabotage renewable energy installations, and possibly even threaten the national power grid. So American media said the existence of such unregistered malicious devices, quote, means the power grid has been internally hardwired with a method that could physically destroy the system. That's alarming. So when I was looking into it, I came across a Chinese article titled, A Chinese Controller in American Power Grid. And it came from one of China's top universities, Tsinghua. It got my attention and I dug deeper. Actually, I gave you the links in the description. And it turns out PJM, Interconnected Power Grid Corporation, here we go, the largest power grid operator in the United States and one of the most complex electricity markets in the world, uses a Chinese-made automatic voltage control system. There are very detailed media reports in China about how the Chinese developed the system and sold it to the Americans. But when I searched on the internet in English, nothing came up. When I Googled PJM uses a Chinese-developed voltage control system, or PJM uses a Chinese voltage converter, Google kept telling me there's no such claims, that PJM does not use any Chinese system. Now, I mean, all these, they're all AI backed. So they supposedly, has intelligence. So they kept saying, no, there's no such thing. But the Chinese gave details and even named names. So according to the Chinese, okay, the United States' largest regional power grid, PJM, is it called PJM? Yeah, PJM. It's called PJM Interconnection, adopted a core operational system developed by a Chinese research team led by Professor Sun Hongbin at Tsinghua University. Okay, here we go. And the system is formally known as the Autonomous Coordinated Reactive Voltage Automatic Control System for complex power grids. Autonomous Coordinated Reactive Voltage Automatic Control System for complex power grids. And by the end of 2015, the system had already been widely applied across 6 of China's 7 major regional power grids and in 22 provincial level grids. Its success in China laid the foundation for an unexpected milestone, the system's export to the United States, specifically to PJM, which operates the grid serving Washington, D.C. and 13 eastern U.S. states, accounting for 1/6 of total U.S. electricity consumption. Actually, I checked the latest statistic. It's more than 1/6. It's 20%. It's 20% of U.S. electricity consumption. So PJM had long sought a robust automatic voltage control system to support its smart grid goals. And despite extensive collaboration with top US universities, results had fallen short. And in this context, PJM invited Tsinghua University to share their technology. So that got me thinking, so how did PJM know that the Chinese have such technology? Well, through a Chinese employee or consultant working at PJM. Tsinghua University's website posted a ceremony showing the PJM rep, who's a Chinese, and Tsinghua signing the formal cooperation. I'll show it to you later. So back to the system, okay? Now, implementing the Chinese system proved daunting. PJM's grid includes 13,000 nodes and 19,000 branches. This is written by the Chinese. I'm telling you what the detail that the Chinese wrote about this integration. There's nothing you could find in English. So it says that the PJM's grid includes 13,000 nodes and 19,000 branches, and any automatic control system had to ensure reliable performance across 5,500 fault scenarios. The Chinese team addressed this through innovative mathematical modeling and real-time optimization using game theory and security scanning algorithms. Their work resulted in multiple patents in China and the US. And before deployment, the system underwent a cybersecurity scrutiny led by the US Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, or FERC, which demanded access to the software's source code and flagged more than 3,000 security issues. After rigorous modifications and testing, the system was finally approved. PGM has since proudly presented it. This is according to the Chinese. The PGM has since proudly presented it at international conferences as a case of successful grid modernization. Although I can't find it. Okay, this is the Chinese claim. And the Chinese also claim the following. This marked the first time a Chinese developed large-scale grid control system being used in the United States. And it remains a landmark example of technological interdependence between two rival superpowers in a critical infrastructure domain. Now, let's talk about PJM. PJM functions as a regional transmission organization, coordinating the flow of wholesale electricity across a large portion of the eastern US. It currently serves more than 65 million people across 13 states and the District of Columbia. PJM also operates the world's largest competitive wholesale electricity market, where they buy and sell electricity. So here's my question. Maybe you guys can help me answer. Although the system went through security vetting, but should we trust the Chinese controller in the US power grid? What do you think? My concern stems from this picture posted on Tsinhua's website. So this is what the article says. It says the Tsinghua. Here's actually the two reps from the two organizations. The Tsinghua PJM Automatic Voltage Control Cooperation Project signing ceremony was held at Tsinghua University on October 26. Dr. Jian Zhongtong, senior strategist of the PJM Interconnected Power Grid Corporation, and Tsinghua University's vice president, Kang Kejun, attended the signing ceremony that morning. Now, what worries me is that the person representing PJM is a Chinese. I'm not saying that Chinese are not to be trusted, but we must know that Tsinghua University is very closely tied to the CCP. It's like an arm of the government. And also, I'm not quite sure when the deal was signed. There was no year given. I looked. It only gave the date. There's no year mentioned. But it looks like the collaboration might have started. I think the Americans showed interest in the Chinese project as early as 2008. That's when they reached out to the Chinese in 2008. And then it took them a couple of years to actually develop the system, test it, and went through the security vetting. So I don't know when eventually it was implemented, but it sounds like it was close to maybe 2015. Now, the Chinese also said that the system is also sold to Malaysia and Canada, and it's being used by the BC Hydro Grid, British Columbia Hydro and Power Authority. So here's the question we need to ask. How do we get to a point where one of America's most critical power grids runs on a system developed by a university tied to the CCP. We're told it passed all the security checks, but who's really in control? When the next blackout hits, will it be a glitch or a message? And these aren't just technical questions, they are existential ones. So with that, I wrap up my talk tonight. I hope this is useful information to you. All right. Okay. Let's see what people have for me. Diamond encrusted Abdullah. Who is the moon god? Who's the moon god? You mean the moon goddess? Chang'e. Well, the Chinese legend doesn't have a moon god, but we have a lady whose name is Chang'e who lives on the moon. Yeah, and she's often referred to as the moon goddess. And she left her husband behind on the earth. And when she flew away to the moon, so it was long distance relationship. And so she felt lonely there. So she is accompanied by a rabbit, a bunny. So that's the Chinese legend. All right. Okay. Let's see. Let me see. All right. I want to first address all the super stickers. Oh, here's one. Marian Holtzman, thank you for explaining how China works. You provide very valuable information. I look forward to your shows. Thank you, Marian. I appreciate that. I try. All right. Let's see. Oh, here's one. LL. I might have missed this, but have you listened to podcast China's Rise to Cyber Supremacy by Nicole someone? Pearlroth. It's an incredible series that expands on topics you covered tonight. Love your talks. I haven't heard. Okay, if I have time, I would love to listen to it. Well, thank you. Thank you for the support. All right. Let's see. I provided you the links of the long Chinese articles in the link in the description, so you can check them out. Linda Uzi, thank you. Thank you, Linda. WSE Wiselack, you're the first person to say China runs Portugal's grid. Am I the first person? I mean, look what I found. I mean, this is, people should connect the dots. Why Portugal and Spain? I mean, Portugal and Spain are connected. They're one grid, essentially. So if one goes down, the other goes too. But think about it. Why Portugal and Spain had this major blackout? Why? And then the Chinese were even making fun of them. I'm like, why should you make fun of them? You are part of the problem. All right, that's all. Password Lei, when will you be on Joe Rogan? Oh, depends on when he when he invites me. So yeah, it's a good question. I would love to. All right. You are so welcome. Well, thank you, Linda. Let's see. Wiselack say, seems you're the only one on it. Am I? Well, this is not rocket science. This information is in the news. It's public domain information. People are trying to avoid the subject. Okay, all right, let's see. All right, let's see. Oh, someone asked me, Lei, is it true that Hu Jintao had survived a failed assassination attempt? You're asking about all these rumors about Hu Jintao has died. I think apparently, last time I said it's 50-50. I don't believe he has died. And I think the latest I've heard, I mean, it's been what? Another 3 days since we've heard the rumor. No, I think it's false, a false alarm. It's fake rumors. I think it was something engineered probably by the Xi Jinping camp. But someone said, I think the information, the Hu Jintao is very healthy, very healthy. They said that he and Wen Jiabao are probably the healthiest party elders um, around who are around. So they said that there's no way that he's dying, and it's just false information to manipulate our opinions. Yeah, it kind of felt that way. When there's overwhelming information to make you believe something, then you start to question who's behind that. Okay. Jackie Gonzalez, God bless you for being strong and for telling the truth and bringing it to people all around the globe. I applaud you. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jackie. There's a question from Marsh Mass. Is the China New Belt and Road Land Bridge Initiative really dead, Lei? Is this not the new Silk Road? Oh, you mean the Belt and Road? I think that the Belt and Road Initiative is dead. I mean, is there any country that did well from Belt and Road? I don't think so. Yeah, it kind of deteriorates. It hurts both China and the destination country because the destination countries end up in debt, and then China didn't get their investment back, right? Their banks can't get the loans back, so it's a lose-lose situation. All right. Patrick Catalan, love from Australia. I was wondering if Iran could be used as a proxy war by China against the US, like how US is using Ukraine against Russia. That's certainly the intention by China. But at this point, I don't think I think that plan has foiled. It's not winning for China. It does not gain China anything. China lost after this latest strike. China lost all of its investment in Iran, right? And it's also been proven that the Chinese missile defense system is just poorly made. It does not defend anything. So China doesn't get anything out of Iran. I mean, yes, China has helped Iran building its nuclear facility. It's Chinese technology and Chinese probably investments, but they're gone. So what did China get from Iran? Nothing. So, all right. All right. So let's see. Any other questions? Cha. Thank you for explaining the intricacy of CCP politics. 1,000 years have taught Chinese very well. This talk is something totally new to me. You mean this talk? Today's talk? Yeah, I get tired of talking about CCP politics. I want to talk about something else. I want to talk about things that matter to those of us who live in the West. So, yes. All right, let's see. All right, that seems to be all. I wouldn't trust China building nuclear facilities. Nobody should. Nobody should trust China. Okay, here's a question from Sasha Safari. I used to work for China Power. Your report is very accurate. Chinese state companies have high stakes in EU power grid. Yeah, I think I only briefly just looked at Portugal because they have a blackout. I mean, I'm sure if I have more time and dig deeper, I'll find other investments and secret holdings of European assets and potentially American assets and possibly Canada. China's penetration into Canada is very deep. The Canadians need to do something about it. Otherwise, it's going to really, hurt the Americans. So well, thank you for sharing that. I'm glad for to hear that. All right. Someone said Canada is mostly calm. I mean, Canadians, I mean, I have many Canadian friends. They're the nicest people. They're really very nice. But I think sometimes they're too nice to allow the CCP to, come to their country and wreak havoc. So they'd better wake up and do something. All right, password. I'm pleased with what you've achieved. I subscribed to your channel when you had fewer than 1,000 subscribers. Oh, really? Well, thank you for staying with me for such a long time. Wow, when was that? That must be in 2021. If the plan of she escaping to a foreign country and a possibility she could be charged, you mean when he flees China, can we charge him? It depends on which country he flees to. If he flees to Kazakhstan, probably not. And the latest I heard, this is what I heard after the Saturday night's talk. Someone else said that their plan is actually to go to a small island, to go to a small country in Africa, and then buy the country, maybe a small island somewhere in the middle of nowhere, and then use their money to kind of buy out the government of that country. So that way they can control that country. Because their family have a lot of money, held by the siblings from both sides, from both Xi Jinping and his wife. So if they pull their resources together, they have the money to actually buy out a small country and exert their influence there. So that's the plan. I think if you think about it, that is the kind of thinking that Xi Jinping would have. Yeah. Because it's all about control. He wouldn't feel safe if he just goes to a foreign country. He still wants to be in control. All right. That seems to be. Oh, here's a question from NTN. George Glass, who was U.S. ambassador to Portugal, is now ambassador to Japan. Oh yeah, the one his name is so familiar. That gives me hope he can help beat back China's infiltration in Japan, like the ongoing fentanyl shipment issue. Yeah, hopefully. Yep. I mean, there's so many Chinese immigrating to Japan right now. You'll be surprised. I don't know your name, but he brought up a good point. Some of the fentanyl, the pre-fentanyl ingredients were shipped to Japan, and they were kind of further processed there, and from there they were sent to the U.S. So hordes of Chinese are moving to Japan. So we need to have a strong ambassador to Japan to deal with the issue. That's a very good point. Well, thank you for bringing it up. Okay, Mitch, I think you talked about how she's first place to leave. I think it's Pakistan or something. No, it's Kazakhstan. That's his first destination. But from there, I said in my show that Kazakhstan is not his final destination, but it's his first destination to leave China, because it's the easiest for him to leave. And then from there, he'll decide where he wants to go permanently. And then people are saying that he wants to go to a small country in Africa or buy a small island. That's what people are saying. All right. Thank you. All right. I think that's it. Oh, here's a question from EJ Belge. Hi, Lei. I was watching your interview with Danny Jones, 3 hours long. I haven't finished not even halfway. I'm enjoying so far. What was the title? Defected. I have nothing to do with the title. They come up with the title. It was just there was just no planning. I asked them, what would you like to talk about? And so it was just, the two of us sitting down and talked for 3 hours. Of course, they want to know about China. And to me, the biggest accomplishment was I I felt so relieved that I was able to carry a conversation with a person in English for 3 hours because I was a little concerned. Since I started my YouTube channel, I have not been talking to a live person in English for that long because I don't need to speak English in my everyday life. And when I prepare for these live streams, I mostly listen to Chinese news or read Chinese. I have not I have not listened to English programs or I have not been speaking English uh, with a live person for the past what 4.5 years. So at some point, I even worry that I've lost ability to carry a conversation in English. So I'm happy that it actually uh, it was okay. Yeah. So. And even during the live stream, when I talk, I mean, it's one-way talk. I do not get any feedback. I do not hear from you guys, right? So it's not a live conversation. Um, so yeah, but yeah. Anyway, that was all. Okay, you speak English very well. Well, thank you. I'm still trying. Very interesting, Lei. Thank you. That's all for tonight. I'll see you in a couple of days. Okay. All right. Bye. Someone asked me, did I like Florida? It was too hot. It was too hot for me. Yeah. All right. Bye.